Let me take you to my driveway as a kid. It wasn't a huge driveway, but like most driveways in Indiana where I'm at, there was a basketball goal. And as a kid, it was always my dream of taking the final shot when the clock was counting down 3, 2, 1, and the old saying like in Hoosiers, and let her fly. Everything in the gym would go quiet. The ball would go through the air, and as it gets to the top of its summit, and then it begins to fall, and it's falling towards the rim. And then you would hear the swish, and in my mind, I would hear the crowd and the screaming and the shouting and the cheering, and they would rush the floor as we won the state title. As a kid, I went over that story and scenario over and over and over again in my driveway. And if the shot rimmed off, I'd call goaltending on the fake player on the other team, or I'd fall to the ground and I was fouled, and I was going to the free throw line with no time left to win the game. Why did I do that? Well, most likely because I didn't want to fail and lose the game. The thought of looking up at the clock and seeing that there was triple zeros on there, no time left, would just break my heart. Can I tell you today, the devil's whispering in a lot of our ears that your time's run out. There's no way for you to win the game. He's trying to get you to believe the lie that the game is over. But hear me today. It's not over yet. There's still time on the clock. The buzzer has not sounded. Might be morbid, but let me take you to a funeral. The pastor has spoke. The music has played. The people have walked by and given their final respects, and you've said your final goodbye. Now 6 of your closest friends or men have come, and they pick up this casket, and you as the loved one follow it out of the room. And then a man, though, steps in front of the casket that you don't know. You've never seen him. He wasn't at the funeral, and he looks at you and says these words. Don't cry. And you're like, what do you mean don't cry? This is a funeral. And this is my son in that box. And I've already buried my husband, and now this strange man is telling me not to cry. Then he goes on and he tells the 6 men to set the casket down, and he then puts his hand on it and says these words. Young man, I tell you to get up. The pallbearers try to stop him, and all of a sudden there's a rustling inside the box, and so they set it down. In Luke chapter 7, where we find that story, it goes on to say this. The son sat up and began to talk. Now you're thinking, Matthew, dead people don't talk. Dead people don't set up. And dead people don't get out of caskets. And I would agree with you and tell you that is true, unless Jesus shows up. Because here's what I know. When Jesus shows up, you just never know what might happen. In John chapter 11, we see that Jesus' friend Lazarus is sick. And by all appearance, the clock is ticking down on the life of Lazarus, and the people around Jesus let him know this, and his response is simple and kind of raises some questions. When Jesus responds in John 11, he says, this sickness will not end in death. When you look at the very next verse, it doesn't say that Jesus took off immediately either. He actually waited a few days. Jesus wasn't operating by the clock of the world, but he was operating by his own clock. He knew there was still time on it. But for Martha, the sister of Lazarus, she's like so many of us. She's looking out the window thinking, where is he at? Where are you, Jesus, is what she's asking. I mean, come on, this is Lazarus. Lazarus was his friend. Lazarus and Jesus had eaten together. They'd hung out together. Jesus had been to Lazarus' house more than once, I'm sure. Martha has to be thinking, he healed the paralytic. He helped the leper. He gave sight to the blind. And those people hardly even knew Jesus at all. Martha's thinking, I'm sure he'll be here in a heartbeat. But Jesus never showed up. The knock at the door never came. Jesus never showed up to help them. He never showed up to heal him. Matter of fact, Jesus didn't even show up to the funeral to bury him. Jesus finally arrives and Lazarus is already dead. It's over. The funeral's over. The body's buried and the grave has been sealed. And once you seal a grave, it's pretty clear there's no more time. And because there's no more time, there's triple zeros and up on the clock, the sisters want some answers. Don't you? Jesus brings them some comfort and declares a promise over the situation. Oh, your brother? He's going to rise again. But the clock's at 0, Jesus. Jesus isn't complete Jesus form. Relax. There's still time on the clock. You just can't see it. Why is there time on the clock? Because Jesus is here. Jesus goes out to the tomb. Martha's saying, no, you don't understand. You can't remove that stone. The stench will be heavy. Don't you get it, Jesus? She's questioning. He's dead. The buzzer sounded. And Jesus reminds her, I don't think you heard this buzzer. Why? Because didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? Jesus yells into the tomb, Lazarus, come out. And he walks out. Why? Because there was still time on that clock. Are you at a place in your life today where you feel like the buzzer's already sounded? If so, hear me. And hear the scriptures, the promises of John 11. It hasn't. Maybe you're looking up and all you see from your perspective is triple zeros. It's not over, my friends. We must keep playing. Why? Because we are not fighting today for victory. We are fighting from a place of victory. Let me say it again. We are not fighting for victory. We are fighting from a place of victory. 1 Corinthians 15:54 tells us, death has been swallowed up in victory. So how do we fight from that place? Well, we can, and we do, just like Jesus did, because Jesus himself became sin. And he became sin, and he burst forth out of that grave. After he cried out on the cross, it is finished. Not a cry of, we lost, but a cry of victory. See, the tragedy of a Friday afternoon in Jerusalem, by Sunday emerged as one of the greatest victories of all time. The greatest, I believe. And on that Sunday morning, Satan even knew that he had been had, that he'd been duped, that he himself had been a tool in the hands of the master. Satan thought he was defeating heaven. In reality, he was actually helping heaven. God wanted to prove to the whole world his power over sin and death. And that is exactly what he did. And you heard me right. Satan helped him do it. And in the great game, it wasn't just a few points that Satan had scored or that Jesus had scored. The championship game was won in that moment when Jesus burst forth from that grave. So you and I can operate from a place of victory. So take some time right now today and declare to the Lord through worship that you're more than a conqueror, that you're not operating from a place of defeat, but from a place of victory. He's already defeated Satan and Satan's kingdom. So let the world know today that you are walking out the victory in your life through Jesus. So as we go to the Lord in prayer, pray and ask for more faith today to believe God for more in your life today. Father, I pray that we would operate out of our place of victory today. God, I pray that, and I thank you for that. In your name I pray. Amen. God bless. You're the best there is.